course, maybe the comparison with the
And I'm here with Wiebe Ruttenberg from the European Central Bank, and the ECB's had quite a major role to play, particularly in the last 6 months, in terms of the changes in European infrastructures, the things that have been happening in this crisis.
Yes.
Does the ECB now actually, do you think, become the central bank for all European countries, or do you think it's still a federated Europe?
That's a good question. Let's first of all make clear that I'm here to tackle the retail payments issue, and I would like to refrain from too clear statements on the financial crisis. But I think that we will have in length of days a kind of federal Europe. If we look at the different infrastructures we currently have, there I think the agenda is clear. We have to go to harmonization, integration, and so on. But if you look more from a cultural perspective, how we do certain payments, for example, how we do business and so on. A lot of harmonization will take place, but also national differences will still will be there. And I think that's a challenge in general if you talk about European integration. How far should we go with European integration? I think from a technical perspective you can go quite far, but how much should we stay also? How should we take into consideration also the different cultural differences we have in Europe? But make a long story short, I think there's a major room still for the upcoming years to migrate to further integration, harmonization in financial infrastructures, and so there's a lot of work to be done still. And I think that's what the conference is about today. It's about further integration and further developments.
That's where my question was coming from, Wiebe, and that we've talked for a long time about one Peach, for example, pan-European clearinghouse, and we've now got several. Between Vocalink, Equin, SIA, and of course the step 2 from the EBA. Equally, we've had a lot of debate around Target 2, for example, and going towards real-time clearing, going towards low-value payments. So, to a certain extent, this harmonisation of infrastructure hasn't happened, has it?
You can, if you look at the current market developments, you can ask yourself the question, why do we still have so many different ACHs? And how stable is that situation in the upcoming years? I don't know. And I don't think we as Eurosys should have a clear view how many exactly we should have in the future. Should it be 1? Should it be 6? Should it be 27? I think the number of infrastructures, ACHs we currently have is probably a little bit too much. And I think, and if you look in the markets, you know that within a few years probably there will be less. But on the other hand, there is Europe is big enough, so to say, for having maybe more infrastructures to create a kind of competition and to ensure a healthy economic environment. If you make the reference to the target system, Target 2, there of course we're talking about also a public utility which is being offered. And there you can say, look, there's a clear need of a clear logic to have one infrastructure. But on the other hand, Target is not alone because we also have Euro 1. Which of course not completely the same, but there is a kind of competition. So how will Europe look like? I think there will be less infrastructures. How many? I don't know, but they will be interlinked. They will compete with each other. They will need each other. Step 2 and the other ACHs at the moment, they need each other to have full reach, to be able to reach every bank and every customer in Europe. So I think there's a sound mix of healthy mix of competition, cooperation going on, and let's see what the future will bring. We are not in a stable situation yet.
One thought on the outline of the changes you've alluded to is: do you see much innovation taking place? I mean, is there something new happening, or is it purely that we're harmonising to get a rationalisation, and there's nothing new within that process?
I think that this is the right question because if we look at the SEPA project, first of all, it's about harmonization, standardization, making the same business rules across Europe, making the same standards and so on. But this is just the first step. If we look what we need in Europe, and we is in general the society, but also what the banks need in Europe, I think, is that we bring ourselves to the next stage of payments, to the more innovative part. And then we're talking about retail online payments, we're talking about mobile payments, we're talking about e-invoicing, these kind of things. Before we can make this next step, we need to have the basics right. And the basics are not more than that. It's about the SEPA credit transfer, about the SEPA direct debit, about the SEPA cards, the same rules, same products, same services across Europe to be able to offer, as a next step, pan-European mobile payment solutions, online payment solutions, e-invoicing solutions, and so on. And I think that is the key issue for the upcoming years for the commercial banks, because if they don't step in, if they do not deliver, then others will do. because the payment institutions will be there. There's a lot of debate going on about the PSD, implication of the PSD. Already you see, if you look at the figures, that others step in and they take certain parts of the market. And for the commercial banks is, are you in control? Are you offering good services? Are you in contact with your customer? Or is it that you are following the market, that you service others, and that you're following the business? That is the crucial element, I think, what we face in the coming years.
Okay, have you got another question, or?
That's Katie saying I've got to do my round table. I'll ask one final question, then I'll go. Final question. We're talking this year about SEPA, the PSD, all those sorts of things. Next year, that's all in place. So what will we talk about next year?
That's a good question, because last week I had an interesting debate about governance, a vague terminology, governance. Governance of SEPA, governance of the retail payments market. SEPA is a project, but in the end we will have a European retail payments market. And the retail payments market will always have issues about, okay, developments, new innovations, issues, what can be done in the cooperative space, what is more in the competition environment. We're talking about industrial organization in the end of the European banking landscape. And certainly there's life beyond SEPA, but there will always be topics which has to be dealt with, not by definition by us, the ECB, but at least by the market. And so now there will be enough to do. Never a dull moment in this business. I'm every day surprised, and I'm sure that in 5-10 years we will be surprised what we have reached, where we cannot imagine anymore where we came from. But still then there will be new developments and so on. So I'm sure in 10 years these kind of conferences will be there.